Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. Okay, so I guess they're done with the whole humor section of this part with Amy being a nurse of Liz. It was, what, 2 days or whatever that she's been there, and already I was, I was over it. I was over it. And, it's really interesting because one of my subscribers named Ed was talking about the last interesting story that Amy had was years ago when she got involved with the whole at some Manlander, I think that's what it was. That was like the last actual interesting story that she's got because there was a point that I was going from watching the show. I came back. I didn't know who that chick was. All I know is that she was annoying as hell, right? And I don't know what the issues that was going on with Kristen Storms, but there was a lot of times that she wasn't there. But Nate still needed a story. And while some people was going to say, "Oh my god, I can't stand this story," I was actually loving the story. I was actually loving the story. And she was involved with it, with the whole Chit thing and everything. I think his name was Chet. Chet was his name, I think. But that was the last time that she actually had a good story. Now she comes back and she's kind of the nurse from hell, but in a comedic way that does nothing for me. So I'm glad that after today, when Lucas came, they practically manipulated her in a way where, you know, she's gone, but she didn't feel like she got fired. So I'm like, I don't care how you get it done, just take this damn chick off my screen, right? Now the big thing, one of the big things, is the press conference with Laura proposing the idea that the people vote to see if they're going to get rid of Sonny's business, you know? So she's answering questions or whatever, and Boyles pretty much kind of just takes over. And here's the thing, I've seen some of the chatter on Instagram about Boyles and people not liking him and everything like that, and blah, 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 blah. Okay? But the thing is, everything that Boyles said about Laura, he was spot on. He was, and that's the thing though. Like there was some people that was giving him like ugly looks and stares, and I'm like, he was still right. He was still right, and it got to a point where he's calling her out for all the stuff, about protecting Sonny, and practically just being in bed with the mob in a sense. While Laura sits there and tries to quill about something, saying, we share a grandson. Nobody cares about that. You still have an obligation to the people of Port Charles, right? I think Laura has been out of pocket, as far as I'm concerned. She's been out of pocket the day that she was um, spending time with Cyrus and, really trying to help out Esme at one point. I felt like she's been out of pocket since then. So, like, watching her political career go in flames was, it was satisfying in a sense. Um, Jordan started speaking because at one point Esme started coming, Boyle started coming at Jordan. So Jordan started speaking up for herself. But the thing is, Jordan resigned. She publicly resigned it. Anna was not there trying to call her out, talking about, well, you can agree to disagree. I'm like, bro, let me tell you something, Anna. You are in no position to really sit there and be coming at Jordan. You really aren't. Okay, because you've been letting shit fly under your department as far as letting Valentine go, working with Jason, and all the other stuff that you've been doing. So you are not in a position to really sit there and say anything. And Jordan was like, listen, she even agreed with Boyles on a lot of stuff that he was talking about. Now, of course, this is all part of the plan of working with Sitwell and trying to find out more about Sitwell and everything. But let me tell you something though. When she was sitting there talking, she was like, there was a lot of stuff I didn't agree with her as far as Sonny and stuff. She was not. This was not okay. It might have been part of the act, but you felt that she was being serious about the stuff she was saying as far as her relationship with Sonny. That stuff was true. Yeah, she put on an act and everything, but that stuff was true. Um, Laura seemed like she was kind of fragile, whatever. Courage came over. And of course, Congressman Drew Kane came over there to dance on her political grave, and I was here for it. He just came there to start a pot pretty much. And, just call her out for, her being in bed with Sonny as far as whatever. Now, the funny thing was, Laura was like, when you first proposed this plan, your intent was pure, right? You wanted to do it for Port Charles and everything like that, and then it became more about sticking it to Sonny. Well, here's the thing, Laura. At the end of the day, does it really matter? Like Boyle said, that place, that pier that Sonny has been operating has been plagued with violence and mob activity. So, are you upset that he's coming at your friend Sonny, the mobster? Because regardless of what you think, that even if he is coming at them for personal reasons, it still gets a section of that organized crime and mob violence and mob activity out of Port Charles. And isn't that a good thing? But she's so pissy at him because, Drew's the devil and everything, that she doesn't even see that regardless of the situation, it's still a good idea to get rid of Sonny in that aspect. And that's what Boyd was just there saying. Now he might have came across as being condescending and a little, mean spirited in a sense when it came towards Laura, but honestly to tell you the truth, the only thing that I felt he was doing was holding her damn feet to the fire. Something that should have been done a long time ago. Of course, they those two go back and they debrief, and long story short, he was like, listen, you stick with me, you stick with everything I'm saying, you will be mayor. And of course, you will do everything that I say. He didn't even sit there and try to hide that shit. He was like, no, you will continue to be my puppet. You'll get your chance at office. You'll get it. You'll play ball by my rules. Um, and of course, gets a call from Sitwell wanting to discuss her future. Now, Sitwell went to go visit Tracy. And long story short, he's like, he wants Sonny out. He's like, hey, listen, you don't like Sonny. I don't like Sonny. I'm supplying y'all with Zinkai. But Tracy's like, I don't trust either of you. Now, I'm pretty sure she's going to probably think on it. I think what it comes down to is, regardless of her disdain for Sonny, you know what they say, trust the devil that you know versus some unknown person. And I think that's what's keeping her from being like, you know what? You're absolutely right. I don't like Sonny. Because of our history, everything that he's done to his family. But, you know, you're not exactly much of a better choice from what I heard. So there's that. Um, Now, of course, Sonny and Jason, Diane walks in with Marco. No, Diane, yeah, I think Diane walks in with Marco. And Sonny's like, yeah, just to let you know, that's Jim Sitwell's son. And she's like, oh shit, I didn't know that. you know. So Marco leaves, Jason follows, right? And long story short, after they talk about that, they talk about the, the project. Pretty much his business being moved. Now, from what I understand, and this is something that Michael once said, and I think this is the reason, like, there was one point where Michael was there coming at Sonny and basically being like, listen, if I come at all your legitimate businesses, all the non legit stuff, like that's where the feds are gonna start looking. And so this is one of the reasons why Sonny wants to keep the legit business. But long story short, Diane's like, yo, listen, if public, I think it's called eminent domain. And she's like, if the people vote, there's really not much you can do. The best thing that you can sit there and do is step into the light because Sonny has done good for the community. He's been silently donating to the hospital and churches and stuff like that. And you know, she's like, if you want to sit there and try to win this, you got to sit there and get the people on your side. Now, of course, him stepping to the light means that he's stepping under more scrutiny, or you're just gonna have to find a way to do business somewhere else. And I felt like, in a sense, Sonny was sitting there acting like a big goddamn baby, if we're gonna be honest. You know, like she's giving you advice, and you're choosing to sit there and throw a temper tantrum in a sense. Like Diane said, you can hire 10 lawyers. It's not going to really help. Now, Marco walks into Diane and Lex's office. You see Jason with the goddamn gavel. I want y'all to just sit there and just take a mental image and just hold that shit for a hot minute because I was laughing my ass off. But pretty much, he talks to him. He pretty much just puts him on notice. Long story short, he just puts him on notice. And, you know, like if you do anything, you step out of line in any sense or whatever, I'm going to be on you. And Marco was like, is that a threat? Jason was like, you sound like a smart man. You know when a threat is a threat. Now, I'm like, you don't know Marcos, right? Jason has this act of the man of steel. I just want somebody one day to not be afraid of Jason. That would be a very refreshing sentiment. Now, while that's going on, Lucas walks in. Lucas is like, the hell is going on here? Jason says a couple words and walks off. Doesn't really sit there and say what their business was about. But I'm pretty sure Marcus is going to sit there and fill him in. Um, I don't know. On some level, I understand where Sonny's coming from. You know, Dad shows up in Port Charles, and then his son just happens to work for the same law firm that that's also Sonny's lawyer. So, in the beginning, I kind of had some misgivings, or I kind of had some issues with Sonny Smith there coming at Marcos because of his dad. Basically being like, oh, you shouldn't work here, you shouldn't hire him because you're Sitwell's son. I'm like, I'm pretty sure Michael would have to sit there and deal with that all his life, up until the point where he kind of changed his last name. But given the coincidence and everything like that, I can't fault Sonny for that. What else wound up happening? I feel like that's about it. Now there's obviously more stuff to sit there and dissect this episode as well as yesterday's episode. So we'll be sitting there talking more about this episode and yesterday's episode and the other four soap operas. There's a lot to sit there and talk about. There's a lot to sit there and talk about. So we're going to get all into that tonight. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll sit there and talk about all the other shows. And that's General Hospital, Days of Our Lives, Bold and Beautiful, Young and Restless, and Beyond the Gates. Yes, and I'll see you tonight.